Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to update my buy recommendation for SoundHound AI stock after the company reported fourth quarter results after the markets closed on February 29th. So coming into this quarter, I did not have SoundHound AI stock rated as a buy simply because the stock price had increased by so much in the last 5 days and last 1 month time period that I felt the valuation was getting stretched. So following these earnings results, the stock price gave up gains from the day. The stock was up roughly 16% on the day, and then in the aftermarket hours, it dropped. It gave up all those gains as of this recording right now. So there are things in this report that disappointed some stock investors, some SoundHound AI stock investors. I'll highlight what those are and what caused the stock price to decline in an otherwise really good quarter. So we're going to answer those questions in this video, as well as answer whether or not I'm upgrading SoundHound AI stock to a buy. So let's jump in.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, so starting with the statement from the CEO saying that this was a breakthrough year in which SoundHound rapidly integrated powerful Gen AI capabilities. Our real-world voice AI applications are already live and driving consumer engagement across vehicles, devices, and customer service businesses. All right, so revenue for the fourth quarter at 17.1 million was an excellent increase of 80% year over year. For the full year, revenue of 45.9 million was up 47% year over year. So fourth quarter revenue accelerated from the pace from the beginning of the year. So its revenue growth is accelerating. Additionally, combined cumulative subscriptions and bookings backlog increased to 661 million. That's more than twice the rate it was at in the prior year comparable measure. So they're getting orders. They've got a backlog. That's really good news for SoundHound AI stock investors. Further, they achieved an annual run rate of 3.5 billion queries, which was up 50% year over year. This means people are using devices enabled by SoundHound AI 50% more than they were last year. That's good for SoundHound because that's more data for it to improve and implement improvements in its AI voice technology capabilities. The more people use its service, the more it can use the data to improve the service, which will then make it even more attractive and feed into its positive virtuous cycle. So some business highlights for the quarter is that it signed a contract with large OEM to significantly extend and increase unit volumes through 2037. That's a long-term contract. And SoundHound AI in the previous quarter noted that their customers are signing long-term contracts. It highlighted that it had contracts of up to 10 years. This is even longer than that. This is a 13-year contract. And the average contract length was 6.5 years when it updated us in the previous quarter. That's likely longer now from the current quarter update. Additionally, SoundHound Chat AI was announced as the world's first voice assistant with generative AI to go into full production with Stellantis, which will be deploying the technology across all models in 13 languages across 18 countries. That's impressive, although I would like to know more about which countries these were deployed in. Were they 18 smaller countries, or were these 18 of the larger countries? That's an interesting detail that was left out in this statement. I would like to know more about that. Hopefully, there'll be more explanation from SoundHound AI during the conference call, which I will also be covering, and I'll provide an update to you as well. So a lot of you wanted to hear about the acquisition of Sync and how that's going to help SoundHound AI. Management noting that the combination with Sync 3 expands its customer service offering, creating the largest voice AI provider for restaurants and extending the company's market reach by an order of magnitude. SoundHound AI already has strong positioning within the automotive industry. It's gaining traction in the restaurant industry. This will help it further expand in that industry. That opportunity could be as large, if not larger, than the auto opportunity. So this is good news for SoundHound AI stock investors. So all this good news, why is SoundHound AI stock price not up significantly after hours? The last I checked, it was down. It was relatively flat. Now it's down 2.69% on the day, even though it was up nearly 20% before the announcement of the earnings. You can see where the earnings announcement came out, and you could see the stock price crashing down after the earnings announcement, right? You could see longer term, well, it's hard to say longer term, but for 5 days, the stock is up 63.5%. If I go back 1 month, the stock is up a whopping 303% in the last month. So there was very high expectations coming into this quarter for SoundHound AI, and that can partly explain why the stock price is down. A lot of what the company reported, including longer term guidance, which I will also touch upon, was what investors were expecting. It wasn't exceeding what investors were expecting, and the stock was priced to beat expectations. Investors in the market were expecting a huge beat. Given that so many of these companies that are operating in the AI space have continuously reported quarterly earnings and quarterly results and monthly results that have been in excess of what they've expected. So reasonably, investors were expecting SoundHound AI to beat expectations as well, given that so many of these AI companies were beating expectations. That didn't happen in SoundHound AI's results. The company delivered solid results as expected, and that was disappointing because the expectations were for it to beat expectations, if that makes sense, right? Can I even say that the expectations were for it to beat expectations, right? So you can see that game that goes on with Wall Street and companies as it approaches earnings and the heightened volatility around earnings results, which is why if you've been following my channel, I generally tell investors to not trade around earnings releases before or immediately after, because stocks are so volatile. You're taking extra risk when you're trading around earnings week or the days before earnings results. If you're decided that you're going to buy the stock, I find it less risky to wait until after the numbers come out, the day or two after, and then start making your purchase and not try and play that guessing game of whether or not it's going to beat earnings or not. All right, so moving on. Revenues of 17.147 million in the quarter was up by 80%. We already talked about that. But more impressively, its operating loss improved meaningfully to 12.393 million, down from 28.953 million. The company in 2023 made several improvements to the business, reducing costs, restructuring, and those started to pay dividends, right? Look, sales and marketing expense down by 34%, research and development down by 41%. The company cut cost and still increased revenue by 80%. That's more impressive than if the company increased spending and increased revenue. It's increasing revenue despite the fact that it cut spending. That's impressive. That was more impressive than if it didn't do that. And I mentioned that with its previous quarter results. It did that in the previous quarter too. So like I mentioned, the company delivered a solid quarter. It's just investors were expecting something spectacular, something miraculous out of SoundHound AI, and that's why the stock is responding the way it is after these numbers came out. In terms of cash flow from operations, that improved as well for the year, 68.265 million in loss in cash flow from operations. That was better than the 94 million in loss in 2022. So improvement there. The outlook, the business outlook for 2024. SoundHound AI says 2024 revenue in the range of 63 to 77 million with the midpoint of 70 million. Midpoint of 70 million. That's right exactly where investors were expecting for 2024. The actual guidance was for 69.77 million is where Wall Street was actually expecting SoundHound AI to come in terms of revenue. So they're very slightly above that midpoint. And then for 2025, they said their revenue is going to exceed 100 million. Wall Street was expecting 100 million. So that's going to be better. They're saying it's going to exceed. This means at least 100 million. It could be 105, could be 110, but it's going to be at least 100. and the company's going to achieve positive adjusted EBITDA for 2025. Investors were expecting more than just positive adjusted EBITDA. They were maybe hoping for 5 million, 10 million, an actual number, 15 million maybe, from SoundHound AI. So these are the factors that caused the price to come down. And for the 1 month, it's up 302%. But on the day, you can see how volatile it is. It's now up 2.37%. It was down just a couple of minutes ago when we last checked during this video. So in terms of valuation, the stock is still very expensive. It's trading at a forward price to sales of 19.36. This is the main reason why coming into the report, I said SoundHound stock was not a buy, just because it's so expensive. The company has excellent prospects, but I feel it's mostly been priced into the stock in the last month with the 300% increase. So I thought the company had a good quarter. I thought the company actually had a really good quarter. The expectations, the guidance was solid, and I think they made significant steps forward. All that being said, I still think it wasn't enough improvement to justify this super premium valuation. So if I was waiting, I would still wait to get a better opportunity to get into SoundHound AI stock. So I would rate it still as a hold and not a buy for now. Before I let you go, let me tell you about the greatest deal on YouTube. With just a click of a button, you can get free financial analysis from a professor with decades of investing experience. So what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.